Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say Benvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful August the 16th, 2019. Guambo Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, is hot and everything is starting to get very interesting in the world of sports. We had the second week of NFL preseason kickoff.
Yeah.
We got Major League Baseball with some hot weekend contests that's going to determine a lot towards the playoff race. And college football is just a short 6 days away.
Yeah, you count it down, Big. I can feel you salivating like you're getting ready for that steak. I think you like your steaks medium rare, or how do they eat them down south? Do they eat them rare, medium, or do you eat them raw, Big C, your thoughts?
As long as he's not wiggling, he can get on the plate if he's hot, Charlton. I don't like it too soggy and everything when I'm eating it.
Well, that's true, Big C. There's a lot of athletes, and they love steak. They eat a lot of red meat. You can probably attest to this. I've been eating more salad lately. I hear a lot of football players, they have to eat like 3 or 4 steaks at least every week, sometimes more, because it gives them some energy. And a lot of guys eat them raw, but when you stop playing, you cut back to maybe 1 a week or 1 every other week. Does that make sense, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to eat it as often as I can still today, Charlton. I'm not worried about my sexy waistline and all that stuff. I mean, as an athlete, you need the high-protein intake. It keeps your muscles strong and all of that. But, you know, you got to have some muscle fiber and tension even as you get older. So a good steak at any time is always good.
It's always
and especially
good.
with a nice glass of red wine.
Yeah, nothing like the California red wine. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. I was talking to some guys over at Comcast Sports today, and they were talking about a proposal for Big C Sports. Comcast bought NBC Sports. They kind of work together, kind of like your left hand and your right hand. And so all the things that go on in sports, it's just amazing of the reach that you have. You go from calling people to people calling you. But I want to just say, for people who are going through issues, and we talk about it all the time, and I'm glad you brought it up, Big C. I pay more attention, especially as I'm exiting a highway. There are a lot of people under the overpasses now. And I'm not saying that they're not veterans. I'm not saying that they are. But I'm just saying some of them have a hat that says, like Navy or Army or military. They can call an 800 number. It's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. A lot of teenagers are back in school now. But cyberbullying, it still happens. And sometimes they don't tell their parents. And you would think they would tell their parents. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255. Big C, I want to know, I learned that you said you were shy growing up. That's hard to believe. But have you ever known of anyone being bullied and they did not run home and tell mom or dad? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, bullying has always been a part of American society, but not even just bullying, Charlton. I was having a conversation with a friend this afternoon, and we were talking. His sister is a school teacher.
Yeah.
And in the school district where she's teaching at, in that particular middle school, Charlton, a third of those children in the school are homeless.
Wow.
And that was an astonishing figure to me. And it was like a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
To hear that the third of the children in a middle school are homeless. That means that they don't have a home that they're living in. They're living in their cars. Some are living in shelters, Charlton.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, as an educator in the school, you can't ask the child if they need help.
Wow.
Because it's a violation. And she knows that these children are homeless. A lot of them are very hungry when they come to school each day, Charlton, because those are generally the only 2 meals that they get a chance to eat. So when we talk about these national suicide hotlines and bullying and all that, Charlton, some of these things, as tough as those are, they're minuscule to compare to what children have to go through in American society. I know our administration is constantly raving about how well our economy is doing and how Americans are doing much better, how the job rates are up, but he never talks about education. This is the one thing that the administration has never talked about anytime he's out boasting about himself, is education. And everybody who listens to any type of program, regardless whether it's news, whether it's sports, whether it's just entertainment, you know somebody who knows somebody who is homeless. And this it's really hurt me today, Charlton, when I heard about this, that the third of the middle school children in this one school were homeless. That means they did not have a home that they went to every night. So many of these kids are sleeping in cars, in parking lots, behind buildings where it's dark. And this is the summertime where it's very hot. And we know it's going to get cold eventually. Think about Oakland Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, who was their number one draft pick, the third number one pick in the first round out of Alabama. He spoke about the hardships of being homeless. That he was homeless with his dad and siblings sleeping in an SUV at night while he was growing up, Charlton. So this is very prevalent in American society. So all of us who think that we're doing great, there is just as many people who are suffering. And our administration will never address education. They're always addressing that people coming across the southern border are taking jobs. But he is not helping out with the homeless plight in America.
I'm telling you, you see a lot. I mean, I just finished traveling. I feel like I traveled half the country in the last 30-some-odd days, Big C. And in San Francisco, Los Angeles, on the East Coast, you see people, it's as if they're in these tents next to the highways. And the on-ramp and the off-ramp, if you're looking, you'll see them. But you don't see them on the nightly news. They may show a segment once a blue moon, but they really are ignored. And I know that oftentimes people have a cell phone when they don't have a home. And if there's help, there's 800-273-8255, 800-273-8255, and you can text 838-255. And I just want to make sure that we're not just giving that number out for the sake of giving out that number. You can really pick up your phone and call that number or give it to somebody, and they can use that number to get some help. So I love doing that part, Big C. I really appreciate you for bringing that to my attention because, to be honest, I was kind of obtuse to it because you're so focused on your own world. And so I really appreciate you for that. I want to lead off something that we talked about yesterday, and I was telling some guys today for Comcast Sports, and he said, well, what makes Big C Sports different than other programming? And I said, well, listen to it and you tell me. And I told him something like a sad dog won't wag his tail. That's a pretty sad dog. But I told him something I'm going to do right now, Big C. And you brought this to my mind. We're the only program, and I'm pretty sure we are, that will tell you to Google what we say. If we're not credible, don't listen to us. Nobody does that. Everybody says, trust me, or my sources tell me. We tell you. If you can't Google what we say, then don't believe us. I gave this example and I want to get your thoughts. Many of us can recall when you're in school, high school, or even elementary school, and you have a classroom full of 50 people or 100 people. You're all given a test called a final exam. You take your test and you hand it in and you hope you pass the grade. But how many of us would ever take that test standing up in front of the class and the teacher asking us those questions so they can know on the spot if we know our stuff or not? And I said, that's what Big C Sports does. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, oral exams is something that used to be prevalent back when I was in college. I mean, we all stood up and we had to deliver on a question that we were asked by a prof.
Yep.
But, it shows nowadays because most of them are scripted and it's predetermined what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And so you have a limited window of acknowledgement of what you're going to pass out there.
Yeah.
I like what we're able to do. We're not always going to agree on thoughts that come across in our programming.
Yep.
But what we give is try to be as genuine as we can.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we want to challenge you and we want you to challenge us on what we're giving you.
Yeah.
But also, I hate to follow the lines of the other shows that are on the air, Charlton, because I think they're disingenuous in a way. Is that they want to challenge somebody and think that they're unintelligent, other than being informative to the listener.
That's true. And now one more thing I'll say, because it's real talk, and I learned this a long time ago. And he said, well, how many athletes do you have on your show? And I said, none. Why would I? And he said, well, a lot of talk shows, they'll have a guest on. I said, that's because they can't fill the content. I would rather have you Google my content as opposed to name dropping or jock sniffing. I don't want to sniff anybody's jock. I've done it as an indoctrination to the high school football team, but that was way back in the day, Big C, and I did not enjoy it, and that's real talk. But I would rather people walk away knowing they can go do something and learn something. I'm not saying we're the best, but I know we're original. I also want to finish with this fact for my guys over at Comcast, because we talk about this social thing, and a lot of white guys are uncomfortable talking about social inequality in public. They'll do it behind closed doors. That's how racism spreads so well. They'll talk about it at home, but in the put a microphone on their face and they clam up like, well, I have a black friend, or I believe everyone should be treated fairly. And they know that's not the conversation at home. And I want people to Google this. We talked about the President of the United States POTUS. Would you believe? Big C Sports is bringing this to you. You can Google it. If I'm wrong, I'm ignorant. I'm ignorant if I'm wrong. In the original 13 colonies, the first president of the original 13 colonies was a black American. He was a Moor. His name is John Hanson. You can Google it. People think the first black president in the United States of America was Barack Obama. He was the first president of the United States. But the first president of the original 13 colonies was a black man. So when we talk about social inequality, it's not something that's new. A lot of men, even from the African continent, and the Moors were in Northwest Africa, they all have to find something to overcome. And I see that black men are the ones to bring this to the forefront, as everybody's doing it now. But Big C, does that make any sense? Don't keep waiting for mainstream to talk about what they're uncomfortable talking about, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, mainstream will always be mainstream in what they talk about, Charlton. They're not going to expand it. I mean, it's as simple as when I grew up in school, there was a thing called a history book. Mm-hmm. And if you think about since computer technology, the history book has basically been omitted from the curriculum in all junior highs and high schools. Yep. Why? Because you can challenge what they say on the computer. You can Google it. Yeah. You can go in and Google and show that the inaccuracies that are in these history books, these written texts. Yep. So they no longer can live that lie in America. Yeah. So now everything is at everyone's fingertips if you want to know the accuracy of what has ever occurred.
Yeah, you can. And that's why I always say, too, as a person of color, because I got to get this out. And I'm just being honest. I'm not always right about everything. But when I talk to the average Caucasian man that's in a position of determining if your program can be on the air or not, we don't need them. We have our own show. But I'm just being honest. I'm saying the same thing in private that I would say in public. I can't redact what I'm going to say, but it's real. There are some men who they want you to be the dumb black guy because they keep saying, well, what athletes do you have come on your program? Because to them, that's an integrated show. And I listen to many and I'll get your thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. Many of the programs all over the country as I've traveled, they'll talk about sports that are dominated by black men, football, basketball, track and field. But when it comes to employing a black man, that means give him a job to talk about what most of us have been paid to do, then they'll have no black men. What they do is they'll hire or they'll bring an athlete on and say, look, we have equality at our station. They don't hire that man. He's just a guest. And do this homework, everybody. Watch the programs over the weekend. For the most part, when you see a black male on the show, the show is named after a white guy. But they'll use the black men to fill the content. Big C, that's robbing people. Your thoughts?
Well, you always bring these athletes in and you don't want to give them power, but you bring these athletes in to set up segues that you want to say, but you put the athlete on the stand to make him say it. I remember a program brought in Harry Edwards. Yep. When we were talking about social injustice.
On the mothership.
They brought Harry Edwards in to make Harry Edwards be the scapegoat for the show, to get him to voice what they would not say. Yeah. And so they would say, okay, this is the opinion of the black man. This is not the opinion of the show. Yeah. And you'll always hear this, is that this is the opinion of our guest. Exactly. This doesn't necessarily present the opinion of our station or our program.
Yeah.
They always do that. They do that to cover. There's CYA is what they do. They CYA with athletes and they bring them in.
Yep.
But most athletes that they bring in, Charlton, they don't bring in an athlete that will outshine the host of a show.
Exactly.
They honestly don't. They want to bring in this athlete to make the host seem a little more intelligent than the athlete. So they pick and choose which athletes that they want to bring on. Because if you think about the dominant black athletes out there, the ones that are very articulate and very well spoken, the ones with the college degrees, not the ones that went to college, the ones with the college degrees.
Yeah.
They very rarely get an opportunity to be on anybody's show as a guest.
I agree with that, and that's why I love your boldness. And I don't take anything for granted. Life is a gift. You got to open it every day. But I refuse to be that sycophant, intellectually vapid guy that comes on and say, "You're right, man. Hey, you're right. Hey, I agree with you, man. I agree with you." And I hate that. Richard Pryor had a skit many, many moons ago. And he said back in the days of, I think it was Leon Spinks, and when he was fighting Ali, and they were making fun of Leon Spinks because of the gap in his tooth and how he didn't articulate like the king's language. And so the white broadcasters would say these little dog whistles on the air, but off the air he was just another, dumb N-word. And they asked Richard Pryor one time, it was just a skit, I don't know if it's true, and they said, "Richard, don't you think he's dumb?" Off the air. But on the air they're kissing his butt. And Richard said, "If I agree with them, what do they think of me?" And Big C, I hear so many of our brethren, maybe they don't know who they are yet, but they're sycophants to keep that paycheck coming in. They would have more success if they became real with themselves. And don't let people put you in a position where you're ancillary. Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, that's always wishful thinking to think that that's going to occur, but they understand which side that toast is buttered on, Charlton. So they're going to stay with that buttered toast. But, and I remember the thing that you said about Richard Pryor and Leon Spinks, and it was true. If I agree that they're denigrating another African-American, and I'm agreeing with the white man that's doing that, then what's his thoughts on me? Is that, he's going to say that about me when I'm gone. Well, he said he was such and such. So that thought plays across, and I like the tone that you said about when you hear guys say, "Yes, I got a black friend." Has any white person ever said how many white friends that they have, or that they have a white friend? That's all they have. I would love for a white person to say that someday, that, "Oh, yeah, I have a white friend." But they don't say it like that, but they categorize a minority. Saying, I got an Asian friend, I got a black friend. They do that. And that is a form of racism when you say that. Well, because you say, okay, I can tolerate one, but I can't tolerate five.
That's right. So if you haven't heard it from anybody, I'm talking to the whole sports universe. Big C Sports has told you this. Maybe you'll pay attention when you see it next time. What a lot of these station managers consider equality, they'll have a white host on the show, and they'll line the table with black guest after black guest after black guest. They'll do that, and they call that equality. So they don't have to give you a job. And you can learn that because Big C Sports taught you. I want to make sure everybody can come to the table, and you get measured based on your talent and the ability to talk about it. I also want to say hi to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a UFC MMA commentator. He works with Dana White. And, part of that, when you go to the Big C Sports podcast, on our iHeartRadio podcast, you'll see that too. It's a small world, and I wanted to make sure that we touch that. I want to touch on one more thing before we get into the world of sports. This is so silly to me, but I know you and I talk about so many things. And the guy was asking me, so who is Big C? So can I see a picture of Big C? And I said, no, you can't see a picture of Big C. And I'm just saying this because I know he's listening. And I said, why do you need to see a picture of Big C? We have a podcast. We don't need to be on. He said, yeah, but I need to see it for the marketing. And I said, do you ask Colonel Sanders for the recipe of his KFC? You don't have to see someone's bank account to see if they can buy whatever they're doing. But the point is, you got to know who you are and don't kiss anybody's butt. It doesn't get you anywhere. I was in the bank today, this morning. This attractive-looking, fitness-looking lady, she was standing in line next to me. And she said, well, I see you come here quite often. So what do you do for a living? She's all made up like they do in California. I think she's out of Desperate Housewives or one of those Housewives of LA, one of those programs. And so I told her what we do. And she said, oh, so how about you come to I want to invite you to this party. We do the Sling party. And I said, Sling party? Well, why would I do a Sling party? And she said, well, that's how a lot of people network nowadays. And you interact with people. And I said, well, can I see Big C Sports on Sling TV, Big C? Now, I was being a little bit naive, but maybe, you don't know unless you ask. So I said, can you see Big C Sports on Sling TV? And she said, well, I'll look into it. But I thought if she's really in the marketing business, wouldn't she already know, or is that just a way to get at what I'm saying? Does that make any sense? Am I naive, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, people try to make inroads with people in any way they can, through whatever invite.
Yeah.
You know what programming is on any cable network that's out there.
Right.
And I don't believe that we're part of Sling TV. But,
right.
People do whatever they got to do to get in somebody's face nowadays.
Yeah. It's all fair and love and war. So maybe you will see Big C Sports on Sling TV coming very soon. So I want to get to something that's happening, obviously, in this technology. And sports is a part of this technology. Things are changing in our world. And if you don't pay attention to it, it can kind of fly by you. I try to pay as much attention to it as possible. I was watching this program that I encourage everybody to watch, especially athletes that think they're going to get drafted. Because we're part of that too with our streaming, Big C. Amazon is now a $70 billion company with a B. $70 billion. It's because of the cloud. Many Fortune 500 companies, even the CIA and POTUS, are interested in that technology. And people need to know this. This is why Big C Sports is different than a lot of those programs that say, hey man, do you know who won the game? They're saying what we've talked about before. Because of artificial intelligence, 30% of the jobs in the workforce in the next 15 years will go away. My insurance company is already, and my mortgage company, they're already transitioning into artificial intelligence to take insurance and loan applications. CNN is doing a special on that coming up tonight, actually. Big C, does that make any sense why people have to understand artificial intelligence is the new racism, if that makes any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, how do you think we got on radio, Charlton?
Yeah.
We're part of artificial intelligence.
That's right.
You think about that. The cell phone is artificial intelligence. The internet is artificial intelligence. Every aspect that you live in life now, Charlton, deals with artificial intelligence. When you walk through a grocery store, what scans your groceries? Artificial intelligence.
That's right.
When you buy something, Charlton, out of a retail store, what scans your item? Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been moving through society forever. Robotics. The minute robotics and computer were created, Charlton, artificial intelligence started taking over. It's not a new entity. Yeah. Artificial intelligence, ironically, is an old entity. Yeah. And as you talked about getting off those freeway ramps and driving under those overpasses, Charlton, those people have become victims of artificial intelligence. Amen. When they talk about unemployment rate, Charlton, drive under an overpass or some back street in any major city in America, you'll see the unemployment rate going down because those people are unemployed and they've fallen off the rolls called, Charlton. That's right. They're no longer being logged because they don't have an address. That's the reason why unemployment numbers in the U.S. are so low. The news stations won't tell you this. No. I don't care whether it's Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS. None of them will go to those back streets and see those tent cities that have been pitched up, and those people do not have addresses, so they're no longer on that unemployment roll. So when they say unemployment is down, go find all these people that don't have a job and tell me that unemployment is down. Artificial intelligence has made them unemployable.
That's why I want our young black brethren, and even the guy over at NBC Sports and Comcast, if we can get our young kids to stop thinking they're going to be the next multimillionaire, that they're going to be the next Steph Curry or LeBron James or whoever it is, and let them understand technology is what they have to focus on, because it's replacing even the race based on people getting working out. Most of the people I see that are homeless are Caucasian. And that would be so rare. I think they've incarcerated enough people of color. But when I've seen from my own count, when I see people that are homeless or under overpasses, they're Caucasian. I want to just get your thoughts on this too. Major League Baseball, as you just said, they're also using artificial intelligence. You notice the strike zone on TV? They put this little box over the plate, and it's all CGI integrated. So when the umpire calls ball or strike, it's not always aligned with that box on TV. So and I'm not being flippant when I say this, Are they getting ready to the point where they can control everything and they don't even need an umpire, Big C, that make any sense?
You have to ask yourself, Charlton, when was the last time you saw a sporting event and artificial intelligence was not involved?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody who has watched a sporting event in the last couple of years in America has watched artificial intelligence. You watch golf. What do you see when the ball is struck? You see an arc laser on the screen.
Yep.
That's artificial intelligence telling you the flight of the ball and it's being tracked. In football, everybody sees this yellow mark out there on the field, as well as a darker patch of green on the field telling you how far a team has to go to get a first down.
Yep.
That's artificial intelligence. You talked about the box on baseball where they screen the plate. That's artificial intelligence. Hockey used to use it with a laser chasing the puck. They took it out because the puck is too hard to chase, even with the laser on the ice, Charlton.
Yeah.
So artificial intelligence has always been there. You even see it in basketball as they show certain angles on the court and with the lines coming out. But if you really want to know artificial intelligence, you go back to the telestrator.
Yeah.
The telestrator was artificial intelligence. It was its first inception in the professional sports, where you had the analyst sitting there with his finger drawing on the telestrator or a pen,
Yep.
pointing it out. That's artificial intelligence because it was coming up on your screen. Artificial intelligence is not new. It's just becoming more and more advanced. It's always been a part of American lives and world lives, really, for the past 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah. And so just for that mentioning, there are a lot of our young kids, and again, there's something called, it's like instinct. We get programmed for instinct or being intellectual. And a lot of our young men, we talked about black banking and churches. There's a book, it's called The Miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Woodson. And we got to understand, keep it up with our society. Because a lot of our young boys and girls, irrespective of what color, but mostly African Americans, when they get into a high school program, they'll pigeonhole them into playing sports. Jerry Rice did a funny commercial. It was funny, but I don't think he meant it to be funny.
Don't their parents pigeonhole them into playing sports, Charlton? If you go around and you look at the black youth in America, and their parents are telling them that the only out that they have is to be an athlete.
Right.
I don't put it on the schools. I don't put it on the administration. I don't put it on the coaches. I put it on the parents because as a parent, you're sitting there trying to live vicariously through your child.
Yeah.
You're taking the child to every type of sporting event, every little camp that you can take them to, saying that my child is going to be the next great one. Your child doesn't know math and you don't know math when you're doing that, because when you sit there and you look at the true numbers of the number of high school kids that get a chance to even play college basketball or football or even baseball, it's very minuscule. Nobody looks at that. Everybody says, wow, my child is athletic.
Yep.
He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's going to make it. And I know once he makes it, we're all going to be on easy street. Everybody is sitting there trying to live to that kid. Nobody has sit there and looked at the numbers. It's like we did a show months ago when the NBA draft was being held.
Yeah.
There was 233 underclassmen that declared for the draft. 233. That's 6 times the number, Charlton, of players that are going to be drafted. Well, 4 times the number of players that are going to be drafted. Only 60 players are being drafted. Yep. Underclassmen alone was 233. That didn't even account for the seniors. It did not even account for the European players.
Yep.
So every parent who was out there saying, my kid is great, my kid is talented, my kid is going to make it, the NFL just had their draft. They just started preseason. They drafted 256 players. 256.
Yeah.
There were 3,000 to 5,000 college players that played college football last year.
Wow.
There were 1,500 kids lost their eligibility. 256 were drafted.
Yeah.
1,500 lost their eligibility. So somebody tell me, who is teaching someone math? Who is teaching someone physics? Just the simplicity of life to say, what are my chances? I have a better chance of being a doctor, a lawyer, a civil engineer, a politician than I do being a professional athlete. Because everybody on every professional team was an all-star at some level. They were a high school All-American or a college All-American.
That's right.
They were all conference. Everybody out there. And there's some guys that didn't even play that made pro teams.
Yeah.
So when parents are constantly pushing their child to become the next great athlete and not understanding the statistics of what will not allow them to become that athlete, I put the onus on the parents pushing their child to fail at something. And then that's why we have this national suicide hotline, because those kids are a lot of them who fall into that situation. I'm a failure. I was pushed up to be this, and all of a sudden I'm not. Now where do I go in life? Because I was built to be an athlete. Todd Marinovich out there in California where you are. Robo quarterback.
Yeah.
Anybody can pull up the Sports Illustrated articles talking about how this kid was honed by his father. He couldn't eat fast food.
Yeah.
He had a workout regimen from the time he was 11 years old. He quarterbacked USC to a Rose Bowl victory. He was the number 1 draft pick of the Oakland Raiders. He lasted 3 years in the NFL.
Yep.
He couldn't even play out his rookie contract. Now he's in jail as a drug addict because of what his father did to him. Father telling him he had to be in this type of lifestyle regimen because he was building him to be the next great prototypical quarterback in NFL.
I love that story because I remember him growing up and he went to USC. And I remember how they kept pumping this guy that he's going to make it. But there's so many opportunities that are available. It's even in the athletic field, but it's not on the field. I mean, you have athletic trainers. They have people that working with the athletes in conditioning and weight training, etc. There's so much that you can do that doesn't require you to go out and get big, stronger, and faster. I want to do something because there's a lot that I want to get in today before we do the what's called the Big C timeout. I'm going to change it from the Big C pause to the Big C timeout. We're going to take that timeout, and when we come back, I want to talk a few more things about this Sling TV that I was approached about, and part of it's flippant, and part of it's real. And there's some more things I want to get on with football and baseball coming up that we'll talk about after the break, and we hope that you'll come back and talk with us also. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, formerly known as Big C pause, Big C. Even for my guys at Comcast, we can change things extemporaneously, Big C. That make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, it's great to have flexibility in what you do. And like I said, I wish a lot of these parents would put more flexibility in how they want to grow their children, not to be great athletes, but to be great minds. And it's like the kids that David Shaw brings into the University of Stanford.
Yeah.
All of these kids have to be accepted academically, regardless of how good an athlete they are. Until you can be accepted academically at Stanford, you can't play athletics there.
Yeah.
And they have a tremendous athletic program there. I believe they were number 1 in the NCAA as far as team championships last year. Stanford was either 1 or 2 in the nation.
Yeah.
But these were based on academic kids, not just athletes, academic kids who became great athletes and led the NCAA as far as total overall title points.
Yep, very good. So I want to again say that Big C Sports, we're part of that artificial intelligence. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the iHeartRadio podcast, the #1 podcast network in the United States of America. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Speaker. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity Comcast. And the app that I really like is called Alexa. Artificial intelligence. Say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll hear from our sponsors. You'll hear welcome to the show. I'll introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing. So there's a lot of things that people can do. And I really want to just make this point known. Because talking to a network television station about Big C Sports, unlike 30 years ago when I got started this business, I was begging my white brethren for work. I've seen a lot of those guys in and out of work. But now to have our own program and to have the same sponsors they have, Big C, we didn't do that by being sycophants. We did it by being bold and having people fact check us. Like we say, if you can't Google what we say to verify it, then you don't have to believe us. But I want people to understand that program by Amazon, it's on CNN tonight. I just hope people watch that as much as they watch the NFL draft. Because it's talking about the job market over the next 15 years, Big C, is real big. And speaking of one more thing I want to pump for you, we talk about Sling TV. I want to just say that this year for you sports fans, and I know this might resonate well with you down south, you can watch Big C Sports or you can listen to Big C Sports. You can follow us every day, Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock p.m., and we're going to bring you more sports action from the Pac-12 Conference. Big C Sports is going to bring you more sports action from the SEC. So don't get tired, Big C, that I put the Pac-12 over the SEC, okay? We're going to bring you sports action football from the Big 12. We're going to bring you information from the Big Ten, the ACC. Big C Sports is going to give you more information on that. The Mountain West. We're also going to go into the SWAC and the MEAC conference, and you can Google who they are, and Big C Sports is going to break down what they're doing on a weekly basis. But like no one else, he's going to bring you some of the history of these conferences and the players from back in the day. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the thing about sports is that we all get caught up in the modern day's game thinking that's the only thing that ever existed. But to understand the roots and the nuances of all sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, track and field, hockey, you got to understand where the sport started at. Some of the greatest teams and players that ever played the games did not play on television that we saw on a weekly basis that I can see now. And so to understand where all the record books were created, all the great teams, undefeated teams of the past and players of the past came from, we're going to bring some of that to you. And we're going to start on Monday and Tuesday with the 25 greatest college football teams of all time. So stay forward, look forward to next Monday and Tuesday. We're going to present to you the 25 greatest college football teams of all time.
And I'm also saying that I appreciate we do our show extemporaneously. We don't have a script. And this is funny because it's real talk. Because a lot of people, they look at some of the, like the mothership, and they look for some of the talent on the mothership. I'm not name dropping, but I know a lot of people. But one of the most prominent one, they put him out there because he's the loudest one, and there's nothing wrong with that. He deserves to have whatever money they give him. But at the same time, as I told the guy from Comcast, Big C's 3,000 miles away. I can't see. I don't know if you're in your bathing suit. I don't know if you're in that Speedo that you had at some place you got in Las Vegas. I don't know if you have that on. You could be on your boat. I don't know where you're broadcasting from. But it's like the days of having a conversation with a cell phone. You don't know what your person on the other side of that line is wearing. Anyone right now, if you ever talk to someone on a cell phone, you don't know what they're wearing. You don't know what they're sitting in. You don't know any of that. You don't know what they look like, but you know what comes across the microphone. And that's real. And if you're having whether it's your relationship with your spouse or girlfriend or sometime both, you can only imagine in your mind what they look like. And that's what I don't want to lose with Big C Sports. Does that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think the theater of the mind is the greatest thing. And I remember back in the days when I first started out in radio, is that I knew people who would turn off a broadcast on a television
and listen.
Game and turn on to the radio and listen because they got the visual of what I was seeing and my partner was seeing versus what the guy on television was talking about who did not give you all the nuances of the play. And in radio, you take people inside because you have to be their eyes that's giving it to their ears. And that's one of the things I've always took to heart in being in radio, now that being in podcast, is that I have to be the person's eyes that is listening to whatever I'm talking about so I can make them create that visual in their mind and understand what I'm giving to them.
That's so important. So again, for people who want to get into the business of broadcasting, whether you want to get into sports or sales or anything else, there's more to life than just making the money. Now, I did take the card from this lady that talked about Sling TV. She didn't have a business card, but she wrote it on a piece of paper. So some people do cards electronically. But I'm just saying that technology is real. Sling TV is real. You will see a cutting of the cables coming up soon, probably in the next decade. Just like you don't see that. Remember back in the day when I was growing up, we had a big antenna, and you would have to aim it at the station you wanted to pick up, and there were primarily three, ABC, NBC, and then CBS, or sometimes Fox. But now, from that generation, if you recall, you have to get this big satellite dish and put it in the backyard. It was about maybe 10 feet in diameter, and you have to aim that at the sky to align with the satellite. That went away when they brought in cable. You just screw the cable in from your wall. And now, I was looking at some television today, some 80-inch TVs. You don't need the TV from cable because you can stream stuff off the computer, like the stuff you were telling me about back in the day, technology. That also is putting that cable man out of business. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I eliminated cable a long time ago. This thing called Fire Stick. And that Fire Stick, you can watch anything you want on it. And if you got a good friend, you can get a real good Fire Stick, created. And so no television you have to pay for, movies or anything else. So I enjoy my friends who can, hook me up with certain amenities that, not always readily available for everybody in the general public. And I've gone through those generations of having the rabbit ears on the television in the house putting the antenna up on the side of the house, going to the big satellite dish out in the backyard, going to the satellite dish on top of the house, the cable company wiring it through your house. Now everything is run through whatever television that you have with your Fire Stick. And all you do is move from room to room, and you watch whatever programming you want to watch, and there's no monthly fee.
That's very good. So we got to have another phone call after this show, Big C. We don't want to tell Comcast about that, but everybody understands it's all fair in love and war. When you think about just where we're going in sports, in Big C Sports 2, we talk about golf. You know, Big C's a big golfer. I putt. I'm not a big golf guy. I'll go out and swing every now and then. But they're already talking about the projected President's Cup standings. And then you have Brooks Koepka among the top, Dustin Johnson, and then Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay. There's so many people that are going. Tony Finau, I really like him as a new golfer if he could just get more consistency. But we even talk about the President's Cup as well as race in politics. I want to get your thoughts on what golfer you look to maybe hang your hat on going forward. That's must-see TV coming up, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, golf to me, Charlton, is a weekly thing. I don't hang my hat on any golfer because they're all so up and down. You're hot one week and you might finish in the top 10 the next tournament. Golf has gotten to a point that it is too equal. There's no dominant force out there. You're always going to have a number one ranked golfer in the world, Charlton. But the number one ranked golfer in the world is about where you're finishing in the top 10. It's not that you're always dominating the tournament.
Well, in this tournament and the BMW Championship, Matsuyama, he's leading the pack -12. Tony Finau, which I think is going to win this thing if he can stay focused. Like Al Davis would tell his athletes, stay focused, young man. He's -11. Cantlay is also -11. Thomas is -10. So when you think about the idea, and I'm just being honest, this is not scripted. I'm just speaking off the cuff. So when a person who's Caucasian says to me as an African American, well, how do you guys do what you do? And he works in television. But like we said before, oftentimes when black men want an opportunity, I'm speaking to other black men that think you have to kiss behind to get where you want to get. You don't. You just got to know your stuff. So when someone says to a person that's been in the business for 30 years, well, how do you guys do what you do? Whether they're trying to steal the information or they're incredulous that we can. Because people are still flummoxed that we do a show where we're 3,000 miles away and I can't see you, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think anybody who's doing a show, it's about having communication, having an understanding. You being a bit knowledgeable about the sports that you're interacting on. But it comes down to just being real. You know, so many shows that are out there. I mean, we're in the podcast industry. There's got to be 6 million podcasts going on now around the world. Everybody's doing it. And so you have to find your niche at what you're good at. I like to think that what I do is unique because of the experiences that I've had in life as a player and as a business person and as a sports analyst over the years. But the thing that I find most enjoyable about Charlton is trying to be true. That's what I try to be. I don't pay attention to what the other guys
are saying or doing.
And so I'm immune to what they do, and I'm really desensitized. And people will say, well, you know, they talk about this on the other shows. I don't know. I'm not listening to them.
Exactly.
Because that's not where I want my information from. And everybody says, okay, I have a source. Well, be honest about what your source is. I mean, source is plagiarism now in sports. It's what it is. That's what everybody's source is. I try to do things throughout our broadcast that are unique to us, that are different from everybody else. I'm not interested in what other programs do, what other programs say, because if that's what we're going to be interested in, then why should anybody listen to us? So our approach to our broadcast has to be unique and our blueprint on it. It can't be about what other people are doing, what other people are saying, because everybody in this industry of sports broadcasting, sports television, sports radio, has gotten to the point of where they are because of their own uniqueness. You can't sit there and worry about what they're doing. You can't talk about what they're doing. You have to be yourself and do what you do. And if you do what you do and stay true to form, then people follow you. Because you're different than what other people are doing.
Like the lady that invited me to come by and watch Sling TV and network with the Sling. To network is a Sling TV network. I never knew what that meant because there's a TV commercial about slinging and people thought it was swinging. And people do what they want to do. So I don't know. It's like a double entendre. I didn't really know what she meant. especially when she didn't have a business card, but she did write her number on a piece of paper. But I'm open-minded. I can look at things. But Tiger Woods also, maybe he's going to be watching Sling TV coming up pretty soon because he shot 71, which is well off the lead. How does the best golfer in the universe, Big C, is he's 11 back? And I know they said he's healthy, that he's not healthy, but I really think that he's good enough to be more consistent than 11 back after the second round. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he used to be good enough to be more consistent, Charlton, but he's not consistent. Tiger Woods does not put in the effort. He's like any old athlete, Charlton, and that's what people have to start realizing.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods is an older athlete. He's not the young, rejuvenated guy that he once was. Well, how effective was Michael Jordan when he played with the Washington Wizards? Scared nobody, Charlton.
Right.
Scared nobody.
Right.
You think about the great Karl Malone when he came to play with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
He was not the Karl Malone that was in Utah.
No.
When Shaq was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Shaq was a role player. He backed up people. He didn't dominate people like he did with the Lakers. And so that's where Tiger Woods is. If you want to look at where Tiger Woods is in his career,
yeah.
Tiger Woods is an older athlete. He has a great name. He has a great following.
Yeah.
But he does not have the physicality to intimidate anybody any longer.
Well, I'm agreeing with you, and I still know that he has that green jacket from this year, so we'll have to see what happens.
Well, think about this,
yeah.
Charlton. Compare Tiger Woods. Let me give you the greatest analogy that I can.
Yeah.
Go back to the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali dominated the world of boxing. When Muhammad Ali lost to Leon Spinks the first time, Ali should have retired at that point.
Right.
But Ali had an opportunity to set up a return match with Leon Spinks and win the title for a third time. The only heavyweight fighter in history to be three-time unanimous heavyweight champion of the world. Muhammad Ali did that.
Yeah.
He should have walked away at that point. Just like Tiger Woods should have walked away after the FedEx Cup, he should have walked away after the Masters. Leave that in everybody's mind. But Ali went on and fought Larry Holmes and was destroyed by Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes didn't want to fight him. Larry Holmes cried after the fight, after beating Muhammad Ali, who was his idol growing up.
Yeah.
Then Muhammad Ali went and fought Trevor Berbick. It was an embarrassment. Trevor Berbick was a journeyman fighter who just destroyed Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali never even had a chance in the fight.
Yeah.
But the world wanted to see Muhammad Ali win one more time. That's what fans do. Fans push great athletes to keep saying, okay, I have one more in me. Even though the body has told you long time ago, you don't have anything left in the tank. You're running off fumes.
Yeah.
But the fans keep pushing somebody to say, you can do it again. You got one more in you. You got one more in you. You can beat Jack's record. No, he can't. He is not going to beat Jack's record. Tiger's tank is empty. There are too many young, great golfers out there. That's the thing that time never catches up with.
Right.
Time doesn't catch up with youth. It catches up with the older athletes.
That's
and Tiger's that older athlete, and those young athletes just keep coming and coming.
Yeah, but that's that story about the lion or the bull that wants to run down the hill, and the older bull said, no, let's walk down the hill. But I understand the story. It's all fair and love and war. I want to just touch on about Lions this weekend. Ironically, they're having two big fights for the UFC. UFC 241 is going to be in Anaheim and not Las Vegas. You have Cormier versus Miocic, and I'm looking at Cormier to win this one again. It's going to be a rematch. But it's the fight that I'm really focused on, because I've met Nate Diaz many times in Northern California and fighting against Anthony Pettis, and Diaz hasn't fought in 3 years. And I know you said this before about Ali should have quit fighting before he stopped. And a lot of guys, they want that one more drink. They want that one more dance. And I would, when I see, and again, Nate Diaz might win. I thought he beat Conor McGregor two times, but they gave the last fight to McGregor to have a split. And will they fight again? I don't know. But I think this fight is going to say a lot about Diaz and his future, because if he gets destroyed in the ring, then there's no need for Dana White to schedule anything else with this guy. And I know he was saying, well, I don't know why they're ducking me. I'm the champion, because when he beat McGregor before. But there's something with his speech, and maybe it's just me. But when I look at a guy in the eye, and it's like he doesn't see me, it's not that he's thinking about something else. Are you worried, or is it just me being too concerned about a fighter who wants to get hit upside the head? Your thoughts?
Well, it's the same thing I said about Muhammad Ali. You can see the slowing down of his physical skills.
Yeah.
You can see the slowing down of his mental skills. We talked about, when you think about these MMA fighters, Charlton, there's no protocol for these guys having concussions.
No insurance
Every
either.
one of them come out of a fight with a concussion, Charlton. They've all been rattled.
Yeah.
And here it is, a guy who has not fought in 3 years. There's a reason why promoters don't take chances on guys, Charlton.
Yeah.
If they don't put you in the ring, they don't feel that you're a viable commodity.
Yeah.
And if it's been 3 years since you've been able to get a really legitimate fight,
right,
then the promoter understands that you're not worth it, and you're also a risk to the promoter from a health perspective. But 3 years out of a ring of physical competition, your skills are going to be tarnished. You have to go out and be consistent. We talk about Tiger not going out playing enough rounds.
That's right.
What are his skills now in golf?
Yeah.
He's just a par golfer for average. When you're going out shooting 71 and everybody else is shooting 62 to 63, you're not competitive. Nate Diaz, 3 years out of the ring, he'll be lucky to get midway through the second round.
Well, I know what you're saying, and anything can happen in love and war because of prop betting, but it's just weird that these big fighters are not in Vegas. Doesn't make any sense. I want to go on to the Big C. The Big C World Series, we talked about it a couple of years ago. It was Chicago and Cleveland. Well, the Cleveland Indians, they blasted the New York Yankees. In fact, they beat the yank out of them, if you understand what I'm saying, 19-5. It was last night, of course, in the Battle of American League Powers. The Yankees were doing that to a lot of people this year. Is Cleveland the real deal, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the thing with the Yankees right now is that they're struggling in the pitching. They're bullpen. And that's why everybody at the trade deadline was trying to find bullpen help, Dalton. Because those relief pitchers, starting pitchers are not what they used to be. When I was growing up, you had starting pitchers that could get a complete game. They would at least take you into the 8th inning. Now, a starting pitcher, you're only hoping to get him into the 6th inning. Then all of a sudden, you want to bring in the middle reliever and the closers, Charlton. And these teams with these bullpens, I guess the relievers are not getting enough action. They're not warming up. I was watching a game last night with the Atlanta Braves. And Julio Teheran, you couldn't even get 2 innings out of this starting pitcher. And he said he just didn't feel it even warming up in the bullpen prior to the game, that he had the good stuff. And that's what you saw last night with Cleveland and the Yankees. They couldn't get any starters and any relief pitchers, Charlton, that had good stuff. A couple of nights ago, when Ronaldus Chapman was out there throwing 100 miles an hour, striking people out. They couldn't even get him into the game, Charlton, because it was a blowout.
That's true. And so everybody has their belief in when a player has played too long or not. And we talked about artificial intelligence. But I want to just cover some baseball, a little bit of football, and then I'm going to close out with your thoughts on Jay-Z again, because I think it could be a sea change if people would stop being that crab in the barrel. Just because somebody's black doesn't mean they're on your side, and people learn that sometimes the hard way. Major League Baseball pitching, you look at the ERAs, you have Rue for the Dodgers, 1.45. Soroka for the Atlanta, he's 2.32. Scherzer for Washington, he's a 2.41. And then Kershaw for the Dodgers, 2.63. And DeGrom for the Mets is 2.68 in the ERA. And I know the game, we're going to run down to Major League Baseball schedule. And I know the game that everybody wants to see is the one in Atlanta, because it may just be a preview of the NLCS with the Dodgers at the Braves. But I want to run through the schedule. Cleveland at New York. Again, that game's already live. And you have Milwaukee at Washington. Chicago's at Pittsburgh. San Diego's at Philadelphia. Seattle's at Toronto. Baltimore's at Boston. Detroit's at Tampa. These games are already underway. St. Louis at Cincinnati. You have the Minnesota Twins at Texas. The Mets at Kansas City. Miami at Colorado. San Francisco at Arizona. You have Chicago at the Los Angeles Angels. And then Oakland is hosting Houston. So that's big, especially with Oakland trying to get into the wild card. But you look at Los Angeles Dodgers at Atlanta. You have Maeda going against Soroka. And this, to me, it feels like the NLCS championship. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, you're thinking about the top 2 teams in the National League. These 2 teams met last year in the playoffs, and the Dodgers dominated the Braves. This is a make-or-break series. If one of these teams gets swept in this 3-game series over the weekend, Charlton, that will change the landscape of the pennant race when you think about it. If L.A. sweeps Atlanta, the Dodgers are a shoe-in. But vice versa. If Atlanta sweeps the Braves, I mean, the Dodgers, I mean, think about what the landscape is going to be in the Western Division now, Charlton.
Yeah.
And what will that do for the Dodgers psyche? You know, you think about the Dodgers. This is do or bust.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they went up against the Astros, and they ran up against a red-hot Astro team and lost in 7.
Yep.
Last year, they went up against the Red Sox and just got blown away in 5, Charlton.
Yeah.
Didn't even seem like they were in the series.
It's weird.
So what are the people in Los Angeles thinking right now? How many times will this window be open for them? They haven't won a World Series since '88.
Yeah.
And so back-to-back World
Kurt
Series,
Gibson.
Charlton, and come up empty. Will the third time be a charm for them?
It has to be a charm. So I can't wait to see this series, how it wraps up. Also, for people who are younger and you want to have a throwback to your youth, Big C, you were asking about your first kiss. Do you remember kiss? You said that the other day. I don't remember my last kiss, Big C, so maybe I will go to the Sling party tonight. But I got to also say, if you love baseball, it's the Major League Baseball Little League Classic. And it's Sunday night. It's the Cubs versus the Pirates. It's really when young kids get to have that thinking of, I can be something. Even if you don't make it to the pros, the fact that you're out there, the little leaguers getting treated like major leaguers. Big C, what does that do for little kids? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I always think of Little League Baseball as a building point.
Yeah.
When you think about so many kids come out, and I think T-ball is a little too young because they really don't have an understanding
right.
of what's going on. That's parents wanting to get out of the house.
Right.
That's all that is.
Right.
But when I think about Little League Baseball, it's fundamental building.
Yeah.
It's the way they're team. And with baseball, it's not like football because you're not putting all that mental pressure on a kid.
Right.
You know, you're not dealing with a different type of a psyche. And it's not always about size. You can take a little diminutive child in Little League Baseball, and he can be just as competitive as somebody who's a foot taller than him and outweighs him by 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I love about baseball, Charlton, is that you come out there and you're equal. I mean, you look even in the major leagues, Altuve, Houston, who's only 5'6", and he's better than guys that are a foot taller than him. He's been an MVP and a World Series champion. And that's what you get in Little League Baseball. And they allow the girl play. There was a couple of years ago with this young lady from an Eastern team, I think it was out of Philadelphia. Well, she was striking out the boys, and she was the most dominant player. She ended up on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She's now playing college baseball. But it just shows the growth of a sport that will accept everybody.
Well, I love when kids can compete. I remember I struck out 11 players one time when I was 11 years old. I'll still remember that. Tonight's NFL schedule, Buffalo at Carolina, Chicago at New York, and that's the Giants. Miami's at Tampa. Then Saturday you have Cleveland at Indianapolis. Again, preseason, not much to get excited about. New England at Tennessee, Kansas City at Pittsburgh, Detroit at Houston, Dallas at the Los Angeles Rams, and then you have Sunday New Orleans at Los Angeles Chargers, Seattle at Minnesota, and then Monday night San Francisco at Denver. I want to just close out tonight's thoughts by saying you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the podcast network in the universe on iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker. You can even follow us on an Xfinity Comcast television. I really love the app by Alexa. You say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll hear from our sponsors. You'll hear Welcome to the Show. I'll introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing. I want to close out this thinking because I think it needs more time. It definitely deserves more consideration. Jay-Z, as maybe the most talented artist in the universe, putting Rock Nation in hands with the NFL and Roger Goodell. That means you have access to the owners. We talked about Frederick Douglass helping Abraham Lincoln craft the Emancipation Proclamation, and that helped free the slaves. I'm not making the same comparison, but I will say this. The only way you affect power is from within. You got to be inside to create power. Why does Jay-Z still take so much flack from our own black Americans? I'm not saying we're a monolithic group, but more complaints come from black Americans than white Americans about trying to make things better by infusing his knowledge with the NFL. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand those complaints and vitriol are equal, Charlton. They're only going to broadcast the African Americans' negativity towards Jay-Z being a powerful individual such as he is. It's equal. That distribution of negativity is equal from African Americans as well as mainstream society. And Jay-Z has made inroads many a times. He has been a philanthropist, Charlton, and no one wants him to be. But he's like a quiet assassin is how I look at Jay-Z. He moves around. He makes the business moves that he has to make. He is not out there publicizing who he is or what his net worth is, Charlton.
No.
He goes about the boardroom activity just like any executive in America. The media made this public. Jay-Z didn't make it public. The media did.
Yeah.
The reason why the media made it public is because they wanted the negative drawback.
Yeah.
They don't go out there and say when Jeff Bezos acquires something, the owner of Amazon.
Right.
They don't go out there and say when Warren Buffett acquires something. And all of these people are in partnership with the NFL. You think about Microsoft. Who's Microsoft? Bill Gates. Does anybody make a mention about Bill Gates' partnership with the NFL? No, they don't. They advertise Bill Gates every time you see a replay. Watch the little notebook that the referee is looking into. That's Microsoft. That's Bill Gates. No one speaks negatively about that. But the media, mainstream media, made this negative. Not African Americans. Mainstream media did, because they're the ones who brought it up. There's no black network out there that's telling you that Jay-Z is partnering with the NFL.
Yeah, that's very well said, and I love it, because when we talk, we can figure things out. I believe in inclusion. I believe in everybody having the opportunity, liberty and justice for all, but you got to ask for it. You got to find out who's on your team and work with them. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, what I'm looking forward to in the world of sports universe is that we have all these high schools and colleges back into action now, all these young men that are prepping for the upcoming college football season. I want these young men to be healthy. I want them to take care of their bodies, take care of their minds. Don't take any unnecessary risk. Make sure you hit the books hard and study hard, and that will get you to the next level in life.
And speaking of the next level, very well said. You can also get to the next level every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.